Star Wars Resistance has come to an end. I'm John Barry, and today we're going to be talking about the entirety of Star Wars Resistance. All 2 seasons of it. So, this is actually, I think, the first time I've done a after-series review for any Star Wars series. I haven't done it for the Clone Wars, didn't do it for Rebels. I'll probably do it for the Mandalorian when when we get a series finale. But in this one, we're talking about Resistance. And so, to begin with, I gotta be honest. I think this is the weakest of the Star Wars television shows out there. Now, like all Star Wars shows except for The Mandalorian, the first season was the weaker of the two seasons. Well, first of all, The Mandalorian only has 1 season to compare to, and it was a very strong first season by Star Wars standards. Resistance Season 1, Rebels Season 1, and the Clone Wars Season 1 were the show's weakest season. It'll probably end up being that for The Mandalorian too, but I'm just talking about that now because I want to. But what I'm getting at is the first season was always the weakest in the Star Wars show, and Resistance was no different. Season 2 was a much stronger season than Season 1. I will compare it to Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. But there's no Season 3 or 4 equivalent in Resistance to Rebels. Because Season 3 and 4 of Rebels is when Rebels hit its high mark, when it was doing its best story, its best character development. While Resistance, I felt like we only got to the Season 2.2, the Twilight of the Apprentice season finale of Rebels, if you will. Like, sure, we got a good story for the first 2 seasons. Little small, isolated, one location, then branching out to the galaxy as a whole. And we get that, but we don't get beyond that. I gotta be honest, like, we get to the branching out, then they get a finale that wraps up, like, they've now cemented their place in this bigger galaxy. Now they got to deal with the galaxy, not just get into it. But in Resistance, they got into it, but now we don't know anything else. Like, okay, so how does the Colossus, now that they've gotten Tam back, fit into the First Order Resistance War as a whole? From Bucket's list, I was about to say Resistance Recon or Rebels Recon, which is not a thing. Well, Rebels Recon was. I would say they still did something like that. Oh well, we got Bucket's list instead. But it is confirmed that the Fireball, Yeager's ship, and Tordoza's ship are in the Rise of Skywalker because 40 realistic models were created for that purpose. So we know that they did partake in the Rider Resistance against the First Order. We know that. That is without a doubt. And then, because lots of people also thought they saw the Colossus in the Rise of Skywalker. I myself never did. Even on the IMAX screen, I was keeping my eye out, but there were so many ships. But regardless of what, and of course, there's a good chance that there were more characters out there that we just didn't get to see from Resistance in the Rise of Skywalker, or at least those ships for the Aces. Or like, not confirmed on screen, but we know they were there kind of mentality. Because the idea was that it was just show every possible person who's fighting against the First Order is there. That's what that scene was showing. And I wish we had maybe gotten a nice bridge between the end of Season 2, the end of Resistance, and the Rise of Skywalker. Kind of like, well, we never really got a bridge between Rebels and A New Hope. First of all, we saw the Ghost and Chopper, and Hera was given a mention in Rogue One to help tie Rebels to the original trilogy, plus some outside material, and of course, there's just the simple fact there was a epilogue to Rebels that kind of recapped everything that the characters did through the original trilogy. Here, we didn't get that. Resistance, though, has probably been more comparable to the Clone Wars in the sense that it's taking place during the trilogy that it's connected to. Not before, not after, during. So that does give it some different connotations than Rebels did. But granted, it's hard to compare it to the Clone Wars, because yeah, maybe a bit fair, not the fairest comparison due to very different lengths. But in terms of placement in the trilogies, they are connected to storyline-wise, it does make a better comparison than Rebels, which was before its trilogy, for lack of a better explanation. But the Clone Wars was also following, trilogy characters, not just connected with a trilogy. So, to compare Resistance to Clone Wars or Rebels is a bit harder because they're all very different shows. As I said at the start of this video, Resistance is the weakest. And also I feel like it was the most childish, proportionately. And I got so that in because Season 1 of both the Clone Wars and Rebels, not only being the weakest seasons, was perhaps a bit more childish than the rest of the season as the series matured. In Resistance, we get to see that developing through Season 2, but because it's only 2 seasons, we never got to see it fully mature like Rebels did, or like the Clone Wars has done and is continuing to do. Another thing that Resistance contributes to being the weakest is it has the least tie-in material. Resistance, there were characters appeared in the comics. Forces of Destiny featured Hera, I know, and a few. And I think Sabine might have appeared in one too, I'm not sure. But there's also other connections too, like it itself builds in into the story itself, builds in connections to other properties, like direct story connections, not just fun little Easter eggs. Oh look, yeah, like Resistance did something like oh, this and this are the same, but not quite. Well, Rebels did, I think, a better job of integrating its story into the wider story. And of course, telling a smaller story is not a bad thing. In fact, the story with Tam was an excellent story. Granted, that probably connects a bit more to the galaxy at large, but still, the story as a whole of Resistance was a bit more focused, a bit smaller scale than the other Star Wars series that we've gotten previously, for those that have had an overarching story, and not just an anthology like the Clone Wars. But then again, The Mandalorian in its first season, it has an overarching story, but it's not a big story connected with anything in the galaxy, and I felt like it did a much better job in telling its story. Granted, it's only one season, we gotta wait to see what happens in Season 2. But I'm drawing these comparisons to attempt to illustrate the fact that Resistance did not get the attention it should have. While I'm sure the writers, the animators, the storyboarders, and the producers and all that gave Resistance their fullest, and didn't get the same, I think, attention that other Star Wars television shows have gotten. From not only the fans, but from Lucasfilm. Time materials were a bit lax. In fact, I think there was only 1 or 2 time materials to Resistance. Resistance had to bring in those ties itself. Its marketing compared to Rebels was a bit lackluster. Not until really until about 3 weeks ago did I really start seeing promos for it, or more so promos for it uploaded to YouTube by the official channels. Like that would have appeared on television, not just a YouTube only promo. And that's the thing. I don't think anybody, except for those people directly involved, gave Resistance attention. And across the board, fans, Lucasfilm alike. I don't know why. Was this a good thing, a bad thing? Well, I kind of think it was a bad thing, because maybe if more people were invested in the show and to give it more supporting material, to connect it a bit more, then perhaps it would have been a stronger series as a whole and stand up a bit better compared to the others. Granted, I still think it did a pretty good job. I just ignore Kaz's goofiness and I'm good. What's going to be the next animated series? Well, of course we got the final season of the Clone Wars coming out, but new series. Well, there's been actually lots of speculation on this. There's been speculation of a Rebel sequel, which I will be all on board for. Some people speculating maybe something during the High Republic era, so this is about 400 years after the destruction and 600 years before the Phantom Menace. I would be on board with that. Not sure what they could do there, so I'm on board with it only because I want to hear more about it. Also, I wouldn't object to maybe an anime series set between the original and sequel trilogy. There's a lot they could do for Star Wars animation beyond what we already know, and we just gotta wait and see, of course, what is end up being produced, but I'm hopeful for what the future is going to entail, and just gotta wait and see. That's really all we have. But some final concluding thoughts on Star Wars Resistance. I feel like it definitely could have done better. While it's my least favorite of the Star Wars animated shows we've gotten, it does deserve at least one, if not two more seasons. If only so it has a better chance at being able to go up to the same caliber as Rebels achieved during its 4-year run. And that, I think, is the crux of the biggest problem for Resistance. It's only 2 seasons. While the story they told didn't need more, the show needed more. Like, if you want to follow the same pattern as Rebels, start out small, get to know the characters, then all characters are thrown into the wider galaxy, and they got to find their place, and that's where it ends for Resistance. But for Rebels, it got to continue on that overarching thematic idea of now our characters, now that they know their place in the galaxy, now they got to take responsibility, for lack of a better term. They got to basically take a role in the larger galaxy. So basically, it's the what next, but not the end stories. Not the end of the characters. That was the epilogue in Rebels. It still left them open ends, and a good series does leave open ends, but not so much where you feel like you're missing something, and that's what Resistance did. It is missing that tie-in to the greater story that it consistently alluded to, but never addressed. That being the conflict between the First Order and the Resistance. It was always in the background, but we never got a satisfying conclusion to that in the show. And that is why Resistance is the weakest Star Wars show as a whole. But still, it's a good show, and if you haven't watched it, first of all, while you're at the end of this video, you should have been watching the show instead, just so you know what I'm talking about. But other than that, let me know what you think. Your thoughts on Resistance as a whole, how does it compare to the other Star Wars shows, maybe even some other TV shows out there as well, since you may have noticed that I didn't. I would love to hear from you. Also, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and well, the dislike button is there in case you didn't. Now also, there is a subscribe button, so I encourage you to press that and ring the bell so you can be notified of when my YouTube videos come out, because apparently that's the only way YouTube knows that you want to get my videos. Apparently the subscription is not enough. And there's a few other things down in the description as well that I would like you to take a look at. Got my Facebook, my Twitter, got my Discord server, got my Patreon. Go check them out. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.